So we are at David Krajeski's house and starting the Rotary History Project.
We'll have two other people here, maybe more down the road, who knows, but so that we can get everybody participating.
And if you're a noon Rotarian and want to get interviewed, this is the location that will take place.
Yeah.
Unless the weather's nice, then we'll be out on the patio.
Yeah, the patio is overlooking the Weber River, and it's a beautiful setting, so hopefully we can make a few recordings out there as well.
So you were telling me that you originally were born in Michigan.
No?
No?
No, I was born in Los Angeles.
Oh, in Los
My
Angeles.
father was born in Michigan.
In
Well,
Michigan.
he actually was born in Chicago, and then they moved to Michigan.
Moved to the Upper
And
Peninsula.
had a farm up there in the upper UP.
And you stayed there in the summers?
Yep, yeah, stayed there. Not all summer, but part of the summer. We'd take big road trips, go maybe make a trip to the Civil War battlefields and then end up in Michigan and then drive back to Laurel Canyon, where I was raised in Hollywood, California.
Fantastic. And then you moved to Park City roughly when?
I moved to Park City in 1972.
Huh.
I was the director of design for a firm called Sears Contract Division, which was owned by Sears and Roebuck Company.
That wasn't part of the you buy a house in a catalog and have it show up. It was a different sort of the Sears catalog.
Yeah, it was a totally different adventure for them. It was a contract division so that they could do large projects. And they had a design studio in the Design Mart in downtown LA on Broadway. And I was hired. I worked for my father's company for many years. Actually, I started at 16,
Oh,
delivering and being a gopher for my dad's design business. So I learned it from the ground up, basically. And so I worked with him, and then my father was a Marine sergeant
oh, wow.
from World War II in Guadalcanal, and it was tough working under your father, as I'm sure
Yeah.
a lot of people who worked under their father would attest to. And so I wanted to go out on my own, so I put out my resume, and I was hired by this Sears Contract Division and as a designer, and then I wound up being the director of design in a year and a half. And the company, as I said, was Sears and Roebuck, and Edgar Stern was the largest single shareholder of Sears and Roebuck stock. And so he was very involved in the company, and he knew that the business that I was doing is something that might interface with what they were doing here in Park City is developing. And they got out of just the ski business and wanted to do construction. Warren King, who was the president of Greater Park City Company, who was also a Marine fighter pilot, was brought in by Edgar. And so I don't know the specifics of the conversation, but I assume Edgar said, hey, I have this connection with the Sears contract people. Why don't we have them work with us to do these projects? So I was then flown up to Park City as a consultant for a year. When they first started building the Three Kings condo, was the first set of condos.
So Three Kings Condos was still years before Deer Valley was under
Absolutely.
construction.
Deer Valley was not even an image. I may have been in Edgar's mind, but we had no concept of Deer Valley at that point. But so then they invited me to come up and interview with them and to see if I wanted to come to Park City and run that division. And of course I jumped at it because I didn't like living in LA that much anymore. I was an outdoors sportsman and loved hunting and fishing. And that was pretty hard to do there, so I said, yes, absolutely. We formed a separate company because we really couldn't buy direct from manufacturers as the end user without getting into trouble with their other dealers. So I formed a company called Park City Design Coalition, which I was the vice president and Warren was the president of. And so we started on the other projects, Crescent Ridge, and then Payday, and then Park Avenue, and the Silver Mill houses up at the resort center. I did all the furnishings for all those condos back then. Unfortunately, in the late 70s, the Greater Park City company went bankrupt.
Wow.
We had some recessions. You probably heard the stories about selling Park Avenue condos for $28,000.
Back then, my dad was just starting in real estate.
Yeah.
He was just getting his feet under him, and the economy was bad, and he was just looking to get started. Eventually, Sun Creek condos went into foreclosure.
Yeah.
And he ended up having that listing and selling those for, again, that $30,000 price point, which is mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, exactly. They're worth millions now. So that was quite a crushing situation for a lot of us. We had it was the Greater Park City Company, which owned the resort, and we had a design office up on Main Street in the Treasure Mountain Inn.
Wow.
It was on the main floor. We had one day, we're all sitting there kibitzing, and we look over, and I go, my God, it looks like a mountain lion over there. So somebody grabbed a pair of binoculars, and there was a mountain lion walking underneath all the kids. So we immediately called the sheriff's department, and they sent somebody up there, and by the time they got there, the mountain lion was gone.
Wow.
That's how basically wild Park City was back then. But so then when the company went bankrupt, Edgar decided this is the time to start Deer Valley. So
1980-ish,
yes,
79, somewhere in there.
Yeah, yeah. And I remember him coming into the design office. Jack Johnson was the head of the design office, who's still in town here and done many, many projects around the country in ski resort development. And Ted Ward, who was the original president of Rotary, was an architect with Jim Foz, and we had a engineering department and the surveying department and the graphics design department with David Chaplin. I was in charge of that whole department where I had Park City design location there. So he came in with Stein Erickson, and then shortly after that we found out that he was getting out of the Park City Resort and focusing his attention on Deer Valley. Edgar was very involved in Valley from the very beginning, and we had Bob Wells, as you know, he was part of Park City Resort, and Merle Huseth. And when they got out of Park City, that whole group didn't come over. So I was without a job. So was Jack, and so was Ted, and so everybody. So we all had to scamper. I was 26 years old. Jack just turned 30, and Ted was about the same age. We were very young guys.
Very young.
When you think about that group of older people putting us young kids in charge of basically developing and designing the whole concept of the Park City Resort, it was shocking in a way.
Yeah.
You know, and you had Bill Coleman, he was this young guy, and we were all very young, and all of a sudden in a depression basically in the Park City area, and we're all going, holy cow, how are we going to survive? So I got called in by Warren King, and he said, you're not going to have a job, but he said, how about if I sell you Park City Design Coalition for $1? And we became very close friends until he passed away. And I had gone to California and purchased all kinds of product for a retail store that we were going to put at the resort center right next to the ticket building. And so they were going to quandary, what are we going to do with all this stuff? And so they sold me the company and gave me all the inventory for keep a certain percentage of it and sell it off over the next couple of years. So that's where my Park City Design Coalition started, right there next to the ticket office.
Wow.
In the resort center. So it was fabulous for me. I could have my skis right there in the shop, and I'd go up and ski a couple hours or an hour and come right back down. And I was married to Joanne David Krajeski at the time, and we had our first son Wyatt, and we used to put him in a little bassinet there, and we all did pretty well after having such tragic news that we were out of work.
And so that was early 80s?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, I built in 76. While I was still an employee, that was 76. I bought a lot in Holiday Ranch, lot number 1, which was like a little over 3 acres. And because I had an employee discount on top of the price of the unit, the lot, I bought it for $12,000. And I built my house there and finished it in 1976. And that was a terrible snow year. We didn't have any snow until almost the first of the year.
Oh, wow.
And back in those days, they didn't make snow, so it was another tragedy right there. So,
Especially with a business right at the base of the lift ticket office, right?
right.
Yeah. That's,
Well, actually, I moved it from there to Bob Wells built that. Where the Starbucks building is next to the Silver King Bank.
yes.
Bob Wells built that building, and I leased space from him for there, and it's been 54 years ago that all this started. So lots happened.
Well, and I would say 54 years is still pre-Rotary at this point, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So,
Rotary's been 46 years now.
yeah.
So one of the people that called on me when I had my design business was Jerry Howells. And Jerry Howells owned House Qual Paint in Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
And so I bought a lot of product from him, wall coverings for the condos and all sorts of stuff. So Jerry would call on me as my salesman. He had a house up in Park City, and Jerry's just a superhuman being. And so he always treated his clients as friends, and so we became very close friends. And when he was given the direction from the Murray Club in Salt Lake City to start a Rotary, of course, he called me and said, David, what do you think about it? And I said, what is Rotary?
That's the very first question.
I had no idea what it was. He said, oh, well, it's great. And it's all this stuff. And he said, matter of fact, there's a district meeting, I think it was, up in Pocatello this next weekend. Come on up, and I'll introduce you to people, and we'll see what it's all about. So I drove up there separately, and I pulled in it was, I think, at the Holiday Inn or something up there. And I remember pulling in the lot, and I look around, and I see all these guys walking around with these goofy hats on their head. And I went, oh my God. I said, this is not for me.
No.
I don't know what Jerry's thinking. I didn't think he was that goofy.
Yeah.
He sees me in the parking lot, and I come over and I go, Jerry, what is going on here? I'm not going to be wearing one of these hats. He said, those are the Shriners. They have a meeting here too. And I went, thank God. So it's okay, I'm in on that point. But anyway, so he called me and said, let's get this going. And so we had lunch with Ted, and it was actually the three of us, Ted, Jerry, and myself. And he said, well, let's come up with a list of people and see who might be interested in joining. So
That was how you got here, and then
how I got here, and then how the Rotary kind of started. And it wouldn't have started if we hadn't had that design office with all that creative talent and making a city vibrant. Because when I came to town, half of Main Street was falling down. Their buildings were vacant and literally leaning over, falling. And I built a building down on Lower Main Street on 13, where the olive oil store is now. I built that building during Jimmy Carter's time when we had interest rates. Matter of fact, I got a loan from Dick Weil at Silver King Bank for 26%.
And you thought that was okay at the time, but not happy about it.
But I had to hang on by the skin of my teeth in order to survive, but I got through it, sold it. And then I bought the Masonic Temple,
Oh, wow.
which is where the River Horse is now.
Yeah.
I bought that building and 3 lots for $180,000.
Wow.
And that's when I started developing to the point where now it's into the River Horse and it beats into the one. But first in there were all my design offices upstairs, and it was still in its original form. I found a lot of artifacts I gave to the museum to put in their archives. And they had an elevator with it, whoever would ascend to the next level up to the upper floor. And so it was quite the product at the time, and it's just an indication how pressed Park City was at the time, where you could buy stuff. Of course, to me at that time, that was a lot of money.
Yeah.
But in inflationary times, that's probably...
We joke with people, why didn't you buy them all? That was all the money you had back then, right?
I came to Park City in 1972. I had exactly $700 to buy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's been incredible. I wasn't a ski, but I didn't know how to ski when I came here.
Oh.
I learned here, and of course my wife Joanne, she was a ski instructor, and so I hung out with Phil Jones and all those people to go learn how to ski. And it wasn't for skiing when I came here originally. Yeah, the opportunity, and what a great opportunity it turned out to be.
Well, This was a great first interview, and we can continue the conversation as people flow into how did Rotary advance from your time in Idaho when you first saw what it was.
Yeah.
Those first 10 years are pretty formative.
Yes, and unfortunately, so many of them passed away.
Yeah.
It's really sad that we didn't do this many years ago.
Yeah.
I guess better late than never, but there's going to be a few holes in the transition from one year to the next, but we'll try to bring in some information from spouses or other people that were on the board or whatever to give us some feedback and some information that we can't get from those people that aren't here anymore.
I think that sounds like a very good progression for what we're working on here. And this is literally just number 0.5 of podcast to try and make it a thing.
This is as basic as you get at this point. But thanks to Rich and your efforts to put all this together. I just turned 80, so I realized that we ought to get going here before it's too late.
Yep. Thanks for your time, everybody. I hope anybody enjoyed watching. And
Yeah, and we need feedback, so if you have any ideas or any people you want to put into this process, let us know.
Yep. Awesome.